This is a special one-off kind of episode looking at some of the biggest crossovers in comics. If you can see from my collection here, which I know you can only see so much on the screen, I am a massive comic book junkie, and I've got a series of crossover comics which I want to go through now so that you know they exist and can track them down. Because I know when I was a big fan of comics, I loved them when two universes collided, like DC versus Marvel, and I wanted to find all the comics that were crossovers, but there's no list that I could find that detailed everything. Some top 10s, but they didn't contain all the issues, so this is what this video is. Before I go over any further, crossovers are two completely different universes. So Batman versus the Incredible Hulk, because that's Marvel versus DC. Or Aliens versus Vampirella. Deadpool versus Spider-Man would not count because they are both Marvel. So they've got to be crossover universes. So I'm going to go through all of them pretty fast and explain roughly what they're about if I can remember them all. So starting at the beginning, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meets the Ghostbusters. Okay, this is a book. I'll have a quick look at it so I can give you an idea, so that when you look for it on Amazon, if you choose to buy it, this book is... I don't know what to say. If I just flick... I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll flick it through this way. That way you can see the quality of the artwork and you can see the quality of the graphics. So it's a nice, bright coloured, newer book. There's a sequel coming out this week. Yeah, I think it's this week. I think the sequel came out this week. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meets the Ghostbusters. I've read it. I'll be honest, I can't remember it too much. It was a good crossover, but it was nothing that... it is what it is. Check it out. It is one of the better ones. And the sequel I've already ordered, it's just not arrived yet. Next one, X-Men vs Dracula. Some people might argue that Dracula could be part of the Marvel Universe. Not really. I thought about it, so I decided to add in this list. It's only a one-off issue, so it's just a single comic. I think it's probably about 40 pages. I can't remember again, but that's one of those to look at. I'll get you the... So you can, if you're going to have a look through it on Amazon, I'm conscious that I'll let you look at the pages as much as I can here. So it's old style graphics. Well, that's that one. I'm going to put them back in the bag. I'll open it all for you. Oh, come on. We'll move on. There we go. Tarzan versus Predator. Yep. I suppose now that I'm thinking of opening up, this is a four-part series. So there were 4 comics in the set. And if I open up one of them, let you have a look. That Tarzan fights the Predator. Let me find a... Yeah, he does fight the Predator. Where's the Predator? Well, there's the Predators. But this is a 4-part series, so you can see they're coming in at the bottom. So, yeah, I have read it. Been a while since I've read it. I'm not too sure what... It's basically the 2 characters going together, and the artwork is quite nice. Anyway, there we go. Tarzan vs Predator. I'll sort those out now, but I'll make sure the tape doesn't touch it later. Darkseid versus Galacticus, the Hunger. This is the 2 biggest villains of the Marvel and DC universe. You can see the pages there. It's been a while since I've read some of these, I'll be honest, so I'm trying to remember the plot. So basically I'll just go through them more than anything else and let you have an idea that these books exist. Superman versus Thundercats. Now basically I say versus, I think this is more of a Superman Thundercats crossover. It's a single issue comic. I'll let you look at the animation style, so it's very nice in regards to the colour scheme, the brightness, the boldness. You get to see them all, Lino versus Superman. And it's a single one-off comic. It looks like it's 64 pages, but they stopped putting page numbers in there, all the same end. And yeah, this was a fun story because I grew up watching Thundercats and watching Superman the animated series. So yes, that's a good one. Star Trek meets the X-Men. Star Trek: The Next Generation. There's a novel called Planet X where the 2 meet up, but it's the original series Star Trek, and that's a novel. This is a comic, so I'll let you see that. So you can see the Star Wars characters interacting with Wolverine and the Sentinels. The cover's starting to fall off, so I'll have to be careful about that. It's got a nice all the way wrapped round cover as well. I know this book's worth a small fortune nowadays as well, so if you are planning on trying to find these on Amazon, be wary, that's not a cheap one to find. That's not a cheap one to buy. You will have to have some serious pocket to buy it. Robocop vs Terminator. This is the original one. They have released a couple of other graphic novels, I believe. I might have them up here somewhere. But the original series is this set of books, which is 4 issues. Put that over here. Robocop vs Terminator. If I flick through the pages, it's got a cardboard inside, which makes it hard for it. So you can see the style of the artwork. Yeah, okay. It's a little bit old school, but when I do remember, this is a great story. What brings this out above the rest is basically the plot makes so much sense. How Robocop got to the future, the fight they have, the two enemies seem naturally fit for each other, and both of them come out as looking like competent villains, and it's such a good plot. It's better than any of the films in all of them. It's better than all the Robocop films, all the Robocop Prime Directive films, all the Robocop TV series, and it's probably better than the Terminator TV series and the Terminator films. Maybe Terminator 2 still surpasses it, but this is the best representation of a good crossover that I think I can recommend out of anything here, actually. Yeah, but we'll come back to that later. JLA versus Witchblade. Now, Witchblade was a series starring. It was a TV series. I found it first. I think there's 26 episodes of the TV series, which that'll be a hard thing to track down. If you know where to find it, good on you. I'm not going to tell you where, but it's a competent series. But there's a whole comic books world. JLA versus Witchblade. I'll show you the quality of the graphics. There you go. Basically, they're all fighting each other. It's not a big book, probably a short one. I'd say. Oh, it's actually got page numbers. 48 pages long, so 48 pages. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm a big junkie, so I'm going to buy these things anyway. I can't remember it personally, but there we go. Okay, Silver Surfer meets Superman. So this is a Marvel versus DC crossover. I'll show you the inside of the comic. So it's a little bit of a 90s style to the 90s styles drawings. We're looking at around 64 pages approximately, and it's a competent enough story of the two major characters. The X-Men versus the Teen Titans. This is more of a 64-page comic. I said I'll get them out. I wasn't planning on getting them out when I did the start of this video. So this is very much 70s and 80s. I think it's 70s the style series. The graphics, look at me, just check the covers. No, 1995. Okay, so 90 made it written in 1995. Okay, well, doesn't look like that, but I've seen better quality paper from that era. But anyway, such a rare comic to get the two teams together. I'll put that there. Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness. Now, anybody familiar with the Marvel Zombie series? I've got the whole set down here. I love the series, and it's a great spin-off set on an alternate world. This takes the series of the zombie universe and mixes them to the Army of Darkness universe, and it also gives an origin story to where the virus has come from, to some degree. I know that's what it was trying to do, but I never fully understood that when I read the story. But still, it's a great one to have, and if you're one of the Marvel Zombie fans, definitely one you need for your collection. Star Trek meets Doctor Who. Okay, Star Trek The Next Generation. This is a 2-book series, although they probably printed it together, but there's 2 books in the set. I'll show you some of the inside. Very lovely drawings. You see the whole style there on both of them. Both of them are the same. They come right after each other. I think, if I had to hazard a guess, both books are around 100 pages long, maybe 128, maybe 128 pages long for both books, and they make the story up like this. You can find them on Amazon. This was a relatively recent release, but it started. The Doctor is Matt Smith, so it's that style of probably a few years ago now, and it's next generation. Check it out. Predator versus Magnus Fighter, Robot Fighter. I have no idea who Robot Fighter is. I'm not familiar with his series, but it was a crossover, so I bought it anyway. 2 issues, collect the series. It's from Valiant Comics, whoever they are. So you can see the inside of the page and the colouring. Okay, and I cannot remember the story. I'll have to reread it again to tell you anything more than that. Superman versus War of the Worlds. This is basically the Martians from the War of the Worlds. I can't remember the famous one. It's a small graphic novel, Elseworld style. So it's Elseworld, part of the Elseworld series as well. The aliens from War of the Worlds attack, and Superman has to fend them off. It's a small graphic novel, so 62 pages, 64 pages long. So it's a nice, small, quick story. You can read it nicely, like that. Nice. The Avengers versus the Transformers. Basically, I say versus because most of them end up fighting if they don't. You can see it's all modern state-of-the-art graphics, late 2000s. Lovely to look at. You get to see Optimus Prime fighting Spider-Man. On this note, there is a video on YouTube of Optimus Prime fighting Iron Man. Absolutely amazing animated film. I can't remember. It's made by Bat Productions. I'll find a link and I'll put it there because it's worth watching that video. Great link. I'll support them. I love their video. I'll watch it a few times. Well, this is the comic. It's probably 128 pages. I think it was 6 issues initially, and it's a fun read. Definitely fun to see the 2 teams meet up and have that moment. JLA versus the Island of Dr. Maru. So there's a crossover. If you know the story, it's an old classic, and it basically takes the world of the JLA and gives them monsters. Now that you look through it, I will say this one is coming back to me because of how much I didn't like it. The JLA basically the animal versions of the JLA, and it just felt weak and contrived, and I wasn't a big fan of the story. But I still keep it in the collection because it's a crossover and they're relatively rare. But if you're thinking of watching this video for what ones I want to buy, that's the one I'd put down the lower part of the list. Okay. Batman versus Captain America. Batman vs Captain America. It's a short one, probably 64 pages. That's the quality of the artwork, very late 90s. It's basically where the 2 characters meet. I can't remember if they fight each other, but they fight together. No, I don't think they fight each other. They just work together in a kind of World War II case. So it's the old style Batman as well, with the blue cape. Now we've got the crossover. This is a 4-part crossover. It involves Aliens, Witchblade, Darkness and Predator. So we've got multiple people all in this book. If I flick through it, you'll be able to see very good quality graphics, but they do mix up a few things. Aliens got a bit weird. It's been a while since I've read this one. Oh, there's the alien. And they're all in here somewhere. So it's pretty cool. Although I know Witchblade from the TV series, I'm not familiar with in comics. I have no idea who the Darkness is, but I do think Witchblade and Darkness had a few crossovers of their own. Predator versus Judge Dredd. This is the first of several encounters that I think they had in the course of the comics. Let me show you this one, style of the comics. I like to look at because when I'm making my decisions on what to buy, I feel the artwork can make a difference sometimes. And this is very good. I put this at a high rating. This is nice. It's I'd say it's 128 pages. I'm saying that because many of these comics are that length. I don't know. I'm sure there's a mathematical reason for it. But that's pretty cool. I like that. DC Dream War. This is one that might have gone unnoticed. This is Wildstorm, if I recall. No, Oh, yeah, okay. This is the JLA meets Wildcats, Authority, and Stormwatch. Now, I know of Wildcats and I know of Authority, and I've heard of Stormwatch, but I'm not familiar with any of those universes. But this is where the whole JLA end up fighting them. So, if you can see that and recognise any of these characters, you've got various people of the JLA fighting them. I thought I saw Wildcat there, that was JSA. Anyway, so that's The Dream War. It's a very big book, probably give it 200 pages, I estimate. 6 issues, so it's correlated 6 issues, but it's a nice good one to find. Modern day art. DC Universe versus Masters of the Universe. Now, this is the second encounter. I don't own the first one. The first one was issue 47 of DC Comics Presents, and that's where the Superman meets the Masters of the Universe. I don't have that one, well, you can find it online if you know where to find it. This is the DC Universe versus the Masters of the Universe. Now, this one I read recently. I'll show you the artwork. So it looks quite nice. I did see something there at the end. Oh, look at that. You know, yeah, I'm making these videos and even I'm learning something. That issue that I just told you about is in the back of this book. So that sells me some money. I was going to buy it. There you go. I've just found that issue I was talking about here. So that's nice to see. So that saves me a bit of money, and it was an expensive comic. So yeah, it's a lovely book. It's great when there's I don't want to go spoilers, but there's a moment where they get rid of Superman for the purpose of the story, and how they bring him back because they realise Superman's too powerful to really make it a credible story, and they do something to fix that. I wasn't a massive fan of what they chose to do, but everything else makes sense. Superman versus Savage Dragon. And I realise now I had them all on display for you to see, but because the camera is so tight, I can't actually give you the best of shots. So basically, Superman versus Savage Dragon. I'll give you a close up of the view. Nice enough art. I don't know anything about Savage Dragon. It's not a big book, probably 64 pages, if that. It's not giving me a number count. 1999 is when it came out. Yeah, November. If you like your Savage Dragon, there it is. Batman versus Spawn. I will warn you, by the way, this is a slightly longer video because there's a lot of these different comics, and I'm going to go through them all while I can. Batman vs Spawn. If you know, let me give you the overview. You see, cool. Batman vs Spawn. It was a good book. I can't remember it too much. I'd have to reread it to kind of get the gist. This one's taken a bit of a beating, otherwise known as War Devil. Sometimes useful because many of these books you can get from the local library. If you have no intention of spending money, make a note of all these books and go to the library website and have a look at the library catalogue. Most of the modern ones will be in the library catalogue, but you might need to order it and it might need to come in from the mobile library. This is Superman. Another good thing about these books, if you buy them on Amazon and then once you finish reading it, if you don't want to keep it, sell it on Amazon. So you got the second-hand market. So don't be afraid, if you're wanting to read these books, to buy it and then just resell it again, because there'll always be people who want to buy things. I'm not trying to plug comics, but I just think that's it. Superman versus Batman, Vampire and Werewolves. This is less of a universe crossover because werewolves and vampires, some might say, are a universe amongst themselves. But to me this counted because there are no vampires or werewolves in the natural DC universe. There are in Marvel in some degree because of Blade, but not really in DC, so I think this counted. Because it's 144 pages. So, yep, so at the back, 144, and that allows you to the full story. Okay, Star Trek meets Green Lantern. Start with Spectrum War. There's 2 books. Both of them are proper decent books by IDW. Really nice and thick as things go. All the covers are there at the end. See if it's got a page count. I think this is probably about 168 pages. I'll show you the artwork because it really is lovely. Lovely bold colouring. As with all the Green Lantern books, the writers behind Green Lantern and the inkers and the drawers, they really know what they're doing, and you can tell they love their drawings and they love their work, and I have to compliment. I admire you greatly. They are great books and they're great artwork and great writing. It's great what they've done to try and bridge the universes. I'll show you the sequel. I believe Spectrum War was the first, I think. Maybe the second. I don't know. And Stranger World was the second. I know one of them's the first and one of them's the second. I can't remember which was which. But from the looks of it, this is the second one. So Stranger World should probably be the second. There's your animation. Again, it's good at 168 pages, collects 6 issues. It was originally released as 6 issues. Superman and Batman versus Aliens and Predator. This probably should have come after some of the others which are down there because they got the single issues, but we've started, so we'll finish. 2-part books, both of them mini books, and they make up 2 parts of the story. I'll let you look at the artwork. It's lovely painting. The painting is just glamorous, and hopefully you can see some of that work is nice. Okay, and that makes this 2-book series. Always a fan of those. Batman versus Predator. Now there's 3 books in the range. First, Batman versus Predator book. Let's have a look. So you can see the very 90s style in the drawing. I love this. This was the first book that got me into comics. A friend of mine when I was 20, he was into comics. He told me to read this. I read it, fell in love with comics, and that's what got me. I must have been around 20 years old. I can't remember the exact age, and I got drawn into the world, and now I've amassed this collection. This was the one that did it for me. So if I had to recommend one out of all of these series, probably I'm going to give this one a high praise on that list. I think it's one of my favourites. Well, it's definitely the one that got me into comics. The second and third are just as good, but I'll do that on there, so that later. They're also proper books, full books. I don't want to get them out because it's taking up too long. This video is going to last forever. But if you're going to buy the first one, buy the second and third, they're in the same kind of vein. Or still watching. On that same vein, JLA versus Predator. Okay, the JLA versus Predator. This story was a lot simpler. It was written by different people than the others. The colour is a lot more weirder, and Superman got the Predator was wearing armour. That was a bit weird. It's not a big book, 64 pages probably, and it's good. It's what it is. Stormwatch Final Orbit. This is Stormwatch versus Aliens. I don't know who Stormwatch are. The book was pretty cool. It is an actual book, probably 80 pages, I think. Yeah. I mean, it was published in 2001, and it collects. Originally it only collects 2 issues, Stormwatch 10 and 11. So it's there must have been big comics, to be honest. Most of our DC and Marvel comics are only 22 pages. This has got more than that in. So a quick look at the animation. You can see that there are aliens, as in xenomorphs, versus our team of superheroes called Stormwatch. I read it recently. It's quite good. It's a good story. I'm glad it has in its own enclosed story. Aliens are never mentioned again in that universe, as far as I know. It's just fun to read. Superman versus Spider-Man. This is another one of those expensive ones. I don't feel I should get it out of the packet, but I will do. Let me show you a little bit of the quality and the drawings. It is a very 70s style series. You get to see them in the old style drawings. They basically fight each other, and they do have an actual fight. It was 1995. I'm getting my ears wrong, and the fight does make sense. Obviously, the person you think of is going to wins, but Spider-Man does have his moments to shine. JLA meets the Wildcats. Again, a little before my day, although there is a animated TV series of Wildcats worth looking into. A quick overview of the pages. It's got Grifter in there, who's now part of the DC universe. So they must have merged at some point. It explains where he comes from. I wonder what happened to the rest. Green Lantern versus Aliens. Let me have a show you inside. You get to see our Kyle Rayner, I think, is the main Green Lantern, and he's fighting the xenomorphs. I enjoyed this. This was a really good story. I'm going to put this out to reread again. It's been a while since I've read it, but I do remember thoroughly enjoying it. It's a good book as well. I'll say 128 pages. Superman vs. Bugs Bunny is a 4-issue series. It was supposed to be published in one of the books. It was described as being in this book, DC vs. Looney Tunes, which we'll get to shortly, but it wasn't in there. For some strange reason, it was missing from the final edit. So, Superman vs. Bugs Bunny is a 4-issue comic book set. It's about 22 pages per comic. Let me show you one of the books. So it's loony in its sense. That's Mr. Mixel, I can't pronounce his name. Superman fighting Bugs Bunny. Okay. Batman and Spider-Man. This is a crossover between those two heroes. It's a small book, probably about 36 pages. Show you the graphics. So you get to see what it looks like. That's Batman vs. Spider-Man. Oh, okay, I'm going to go through the whole series of these. There's 5 Witchblade versus Tomb Raider books. We'll go through. If I give you the first one, let's say Coda. I think this is Coda. I think it's the first one. You get to see the animation is, well, got some interesting panels. That's Darkness. That's another crossover. So Darkness is a different series. But okay, there we go. And so basically there's 4 in that series. There is Coda, Ceremony, Covenant, Cauldron, and Trouble Seekers. This is one that doesn't. Those 4 seem to be a 4-part collection, and this is a 5th book. Slightly different collection, style and art. Is what it is. The Alien vs Predator Omnibus. This is basically all the Alien vs Predator comics that they put out, and they correlated them into this story. It's a smaller book. You know, it's like just a bit bigger than A5, and the artwork is a little bit old-fashioned. Just see how much is Omnibus Volume 1. That means there's probably a Volume 2 which I'm missing, and yeah, all it's got comics in it from 1986 all the way up to 2007, I think. Oh, okay, I'll give you that front verb there so you can see the stories that are in it. Best pause if you want to check it out. Okay, Wildcats meets the Aliens. Notice how some of these series do have crossovers that you see time and time again. It's got the Wildcat universe versus Aliens. Yeah, very similar to Stormwatch, if I recall, so I'm not quite sure. Batman versus Aliens. Now there are 2, I think, of these. Yeah, there's 2 of the series. Good, go that way. Go for the first one. The first one was my favourite. I loved this. This was another great crossover. Just like Batman vs Predator, it has some great artwork, and the 2 really make for a decent series. Proper decent sized book as well. The sequel, I think, was split across 3 books, and it features more artwork. I do believe this series has been published or republished in a DC book. So like this version, DC meets Superman, I think there's a DC meets Batman as well with those things in it. So to save money, if you're going to buy this, get that collection. I think all these comics come in it. Crossover Classics. This is a collection of all. This is some of the story. There's 4 in the range. There's 4 crossover classic books. I only own 1 and 3, I believe, because I have all the other stories as individuals, apart from a couple which I wasn't interested in. So if I give you the artwork is going to be all over the place because these are different comics from different people. But if I give you a quick overview, this collection here, it collects Superman and the Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man and Gen 13, Team X and Team 7, Daredevil and Batman. So Team X and Team 7 is one, wherever they are. Daredevil and Batman is another. Spider-Man and Batman is another. And Generation X and Gen 13. So there's all those crossovers from different universes. And that one in the second version. I think this is volume 1. These aren't cheap, by the way, bear that in mind. This is going to be one of the dearer investments. This is very old in regards to the quality of the drawings. This one, let me have a look. It was printed in 1991. See if it gives me a chapter, what comics are in it. Okay, it collects Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man, Superman and Spider-Man, Batman versus the Incredible Hulk, the Uncanny X-Men, and the New Teen Titans. Okay, so that's what's in that one. Batman and Houdini is a nice different type. It's a small pamphlet style book. So you get to see the artwork, paintings more than anything else. Pamphlet. It's the two meet each other. What are you going to say? It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meets Savage Dragon. It's a 2-part comic book. This has just arrived for me. I've got a section on the shelf for books to read. And this is still on my to read list. I think a bit of a 90s vibe I'm getting from it. That's those two. As I say, it's 2 parts for the story. JLA meets Cyberforce. They're all cybernetic warriors from a different universe. I don't know which universe, I've not read it. But basically you get to see the 2 teams fight each other. Small booklet, 64 pages. Batman vs Punisher 1 and 2. This was one of them was collected in one of those Universal books. I'm not sure which, but I'll add them both here anyway. There's 2 Batmen. The first Batman is traditional Bruce Wayne, and the other Batman was Azrael, John Paul Valet, who took over the mantle after Nightfall, which is another good book. The original one here is the original Batman. Pamphlet size, 64 pages. A little bit. The paper's are noticeably different, but it's still got enough to it to be interesting. And the second one, it's a bit more glossy. The paper. I think the other one was like a grit matte paper, newspaper type paper. Okay. DC versus Marvel. If you're wondering whether this is going to end, there's still probably another 20-30 to go. I'm just warning you. I'm going to because I know when I collect these you want to know about them, so I'm going to move on. DC versus Marvel Comics. This is where the 2 ended up fighting each other, and there was a contest where they all had to fight each other to save their universes, and there you go. So pretty cool. There is it involves people like Superboy, who doesn't really exist anymore in the DC universe, and yeah, so just bear that in mind. And it's the old style of Spider-Man from the 90s. Great book though, one of my favourites. Who doesn't love the 2 universes fighting? And on the back of that, I think you also... Well, I'll come back to there's 2 things. One, there's this one, which is JLA versus the Avengers. Now, this has been released as its own book, but again, I can't... It's ridiculously expensive. And I still have the original comic sets from it, so I'm going to keep those from the UK releases. And the thing I love about these is there's 4 issues. Yeah, 4 issues that make the set. I'll start with this one. It's like if you take the cover, it's a full, nice, lovely picture of the fighting there. So that in itself I could put up a frame, but I'm not going to do that. You can see the animation, the cartoon graphic style. Superman vs. 4. There you go. So that's that series. But from the back of those 2 series, you have the Amagran universe. The Amagran, I think there's 3 books in the range. I've only got one of them here. This is the Return to Amagran. Basically what they did after the two teams fought each other, they had this special run of series of comics where the two were mixed together. So if I give you a quick scan of it, like this, see if I can find a good. So Batman and Bruce and Wolverine were mixed together to make Batclaw, something like that. And so you had the two characters merged as one, and that's what that series was. There's a few in the series, I think, yeah. But you've also got the sequel to that series when that ended, which is DC Marvel Access and Unlimited Access. Let me take this one. Both of them. Let me have a look. Unlimited Access is 3 comics. No, 4. 4 in that one and 4 in that one. Give you a quick overview so you can see Venom versus Superman. Just more comics to do in the series. That featured on a special guy who had the power to the key, if I remember. It's been a while since I've read it, but it was nice to see these characters continue on their feud. Judge Dredd versus Aliens. Judge Dredd has a few encounters with Alien and Predator, and there's a book dealing on that. This one is called Incubus. It's probably 128 pages. Artwork is pretty nice. I like it. I don't know how that works with autofocus. I'm just doing it one man gang now. And now we'll move to the things that I haven't read yet. So DC Comics versus Superman. So these are this is where Superman fights the aliens. I'll go through it all in the collection. Just to let you know, there are different artists, so the style of the drawings is going to drastically change as you go to different stories. Okay, collected in this book. Let's have a look. Superman vs. Aliens, Superman vs. Aliens 2, God War, the Superman Madman Hullabaloo comic, and Superman / Tarzan Sons of the Jungle. So the Superman Tarzan and Superman Aliens. Yeah, so you get a bunch of good comics. The Superman vs. Aliens ones are good. I strongly recommend Superman vs. Alien. I've read those two. I've not read the other two yet. Infestation. Now there's 2 sets to this. This is Infestation Omnibus. This is Infestation Outbreak, the sequel. However, there are even more. There's a whole Revolution comic. Basically, this takes the universe of. I'll show you this one first. This is a smaller, bigger than A5. I'm not sure what size. It's set Star Trek, Transformers. Star Trek, Transformers, Ghostbusters, and G.I. Joe. And in the future ones, they add Mask and some other 80s franchises all into the mix. Initially in this, I've not read it yet, but from what I'm told, there's some kind of zombie outbreak that moves from universe to universe where each time it gets defeated. So that's why they don't interact with each other, the universes, but the zombies do, the bad guys do. So that's how they all link, and that's why there's a crossover. However, in the Revolution series, the books that come afterwards, you've got Transformers versus G.I. Joe all mixing together. I've not read those yet, and they're on the way to me, but then anyway, they exist should you want to look them up and like that series. Archie versus Predator. Again, one of the new ones. I've not read it yet, so if I give you a quick view of the comic. Get to see the comic as nice and colourful. Get to see Archie fight with the Predator. A nice big hardback book. DC meets Looney Tunes. Okay, this is again a collection of different comic artists, so the style's going to change as I flip through this. If I give you a quick one, it collects. I put it at the back here. It collects Legion of Superheroes / Bugs Bunny Special, The Martian Manhunter Marvin Special, Wonder Woman Tasmanian Devil Special, Lobo Roadrunner Special, Jonah Hex Yosemite Sam Special, and Batman Elmer Fudd Special. I don't know whether Focus would have picked that up, but basically it's a nice good book. Still got to read it though. Justice League meets the Power Rangers. One of the recent books that came out, hardback, nice bit, 128 pages from the looks of it. I do want to read this. It's on my to-do list. So you got the Power Rangers fighting Superman and the rest of the league. That's that one. Star Trek meets Planet of the Apes. Yep, we get it. They're just doing about everything, and there's no end to these books. So let you have a quick look at that. Oh, a bookmark. And that's that book. Probably, it's a good number of books. I'd probably say 6 issues, so probably 128 pages. And it looks nice. They do more on that series, as on Tarzan on the Planet of the Apes. So, very similar in the last one in regards to the drawing style. Star Trek meets the Legion of Superheroes. This is the Legion of Superheroes from the DC universe meets the original series Star Trek. I'll give you a quick view of that one. I like it. Still on my list of things to read. The Joker meets the Mask. This is one that I think has got expensive, so bear that in mind if you try to seek it. You know the Mask, and you know the Joker. So it's the two. The Joker gets the Mask. So you've got that whole. It's a nice big story on that feature. It's a relatively rare issue of the comic, that one. He-Man meets the Thundercats. Give you a quick view. I can't tell you much about these. The artwork is lovely. It's just as much as I keep trying. I've just not got the time of the day to read them all. Let me have a look at it. Batman. This is Batman Adventures meets Teenage Mutants. This is not. There's 2. Let me have a look. Just before you get confused, there are 2 in the range. There's 2 books. We'll get to that one in a second. This one is more of the animated series. So it's like the TV series, animated series, fighting the more modern, up-to-date Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Good sized book, probably good 120 pages. And the follow-up is this one. This is okay, and this is very much decent, very fine-tuned art and very much adult-orientated in the style. There's a sequel. The second one came out 2 days ago. It's on its way to me. So this is number 1, and there's volume 2 in this range. So this is a separate universe Batman to this one, and there's a 3rd one. So if you're going to track them down, you know you need 3. Okay? Big thick book. Aliens meets Vampire. Ah! I need to save that because who knows how expensive some of those comics were. And I'm trying to pile them all up and be fast for you. Here we go. I'm back. Okay. Aliens versus Vampirella. Big thick hardbook book. Didn't get great reviews online, but doesn't bother me. I'm after the crossover. Give you a quick look at the comic. The drawing style's nice. It's nice and bold. I like to see the pictures as they are. I can't tell you much more about it. Don't fall. Terminator versus Robocop Kill Human. This is one of the sequels to the series which I mentioned earlier. Again, I've not read it yet, so I can't tell you if it's any good, but it is on my list of things to read next. Batman meets Judge Dredd. I've read all of these, I think, apart from one. There's a bunch of them in the set. I'll go through them in a second, but they're from different artists. So absolutely beautiful artwork, gorgeous to look at. Going off to basic, and then nice again. There's Batman vs Judgment, Batman Judge Dredd, Judgment and Gotham. That's one of them. I think there's 4. There's 4 books in this set, but I can't get it. I can't. Show me a title. Oh, there's another one. Batman Judge Dredd Ultimate Riddle. Is that Lobo and Judge Dredd? That's Lobo and Judge Dredd. So anyway, I'll leave you with to explore that one. Then you've got Predator, Judge Dredd and Aliens, Splice and Dice. This is a paperback book, 4 issues collected into a book. Show you the graphics. Again, I've yet to read it, but it looks pretty cool. Batman and the murder geniuses. This is the Shadow. It's the Batman and the Shadow, basically in their own little hobby book. One of the recent releases, so you should be able to find it on Amazon quite cheap. And you get to see them with the Joker in the mix. Okay. Bet you're wondering how many more can you have? This is just a fraction. So Planet of the Apes versus Green Lantern. Show you the inside. So you got a lantern. You've got a bunch of Green Lanterns. I'll have to read this one. It's got to go up my list. The DC comic universe meets Justice League. So this is like Hellboy. So you got Superman versus Predator 1 to 3. That's a good series. I've read those as well. You got Superman versus the Terminator, Fight for Justice, Fight for the Future. I had all of these individually and I sold them. Forget this. Batman, Hellboy, and Starman issues 1 and 2, and Ghost, Batgirl issues 1 to 4. So the Superman versus Predator are amazing. I enjoyed them, and I've got to read the others. So there's Superman, because Superman loses his powers, so he has to. Well, he loses most of them after a while. I'm not going to go far into it, but it's worth it. And you get to see Superman versus Terminator. That's pretty cool as well. I enjoyed that one. We have the original comics. The Darkness versus Batman. It's I don't know who the Darkness is. Seems to be a bit from the Witchblade universe. It's a single issue comic, probably 32 pages. Should I show you the inside just so you can? I know. I don't really. But I know part of me thinks this is one of those harder ones to. There you go. Just so you can say you've seen it and you can make that decision yourself whether you want to buy it. JLA Hitman. It's 2 issues. I don't know who Hitman is. You think he's from he's from a universe of his own. And that's the comic. So 64 pages probably for the 2. I think. I've not got time to count them. I've got so many here, and I know you're already bored, and you're thinking, how many more can there be? And I'm going to carry on. Green Lantern versus Silver Surfer. Okay, there's the book. 64 pages, I reckon. Maybe 48. Don't fall. Getting quite a power now. Batman meets Daredevil. Again, probably a 48-page small book. What's that? Lobo and Judge Dredd. Oh, now this made me think about that other book. So maybe I've got this twice. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. It looks like I could have it twice. JLA Haven. Now this is a series, the Haven series. I've not read it. It was only 8 issues, the entire run, but they collected it by the opening and first issues meeting the Justice League. So that's what this is. It's on my list of things to read. So they met each other twice in what is a 10 comic book run. So I'm still not quite sure exactly who they are. Superman and Savage Dragon. I think Savage Dragon is this cop from this 90s TV animated show. As much as I know about him, really. There you go. And Superman Fantastic Four, oversized book, very big panels, lovely artwork that goes there. And beyond this, you've got a few others if you really want to dig into it. You've got this one called Batman the Flash, the Button. This basically is the beginning of the Watchmen coming into the DC universe. The Watchmen had their own film. I'm not too sure. They only tease it. They show you the Button. They don't show you the Watchmen. That's to come up in a future book. There are also a couple of others that I've not got here. One of them is a Futurama. This isn't the moment, but Futurama meets The Simpsons. It's not here at the moment, but it's The Simpsons meet the Futurama people. They have this big crossover book which you can get. Sonic meets Mega Man. Sonic meets Mega Man Worlds Unite. Basically, that's a big book where the two main characters, they kind of have their adventure, but between them they also go into these other universes like the Street Fighter universe and other Capcom games. So there's a big crossover with that. This is basically Batman 66 meets the Green Hornet. It's a book that came out just recently. I'll give you a quick look at the pages. It's the old style Batman. There was a series of books that were released. Batman meets Man of Uncle, I think it is, and Batman meets Agents of the Avengers, the original John Steed Avengers. There'll be pictures coming up on the screen. But that's all my crossover collection which I have. Hopefully there, if you're a fan of these books like I am, I've shown you some books which you can go look for now on Amazon, on eBay, and if you know other places to find them, you might be there. And if you're aware of any books that I don't know about, because this is the problem, many of these books I only learn about them through other videos or for other people telling me about them, and I'm a junkie for them. I want to find more. So if you know of any books that I haven't told you in this video, please tell me in the comments below and I can track them down and buy them myself. So that was a very interesting video going through my whole collection. I'm going to put it all back into their packets and neatly on their shelves, nice and safe, before something else happens to them. I hope you found it informative, and please check out some of the other videos. Okay, bye for now.